Excuse me, people, let's get this right. This is the third Texas Chainsaw Massacre movie, but the first of two to be called Leatherface, and is subtitled Texas Chainsaw Massacre 3, but no, not Texas Chainsaw 3D. This series is less choose your own adventure like the Halloween series, and more just tell me what you think a movie would look like based on the title. I should have known this would win the poll, not because it was the most famous, but because it sorta links to the Cannon Group in a way. The movie was made by New Line Cinema, who bought the rights to the series from Cannon, who made Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2. New Line wanted to go more in a direction that was less comedic, like the second, and more straightforward horror, which, mistake. There should have been more sequels with the tone of the second, arguably the best of the sequels. Or maybe New Line just didn't want to ape the tone of what they were already doing with the Nightmare on Elm Street franchise. Honestly, it kinda seemed like the third would go in a funny direction, considering more people remember the teaser than the actual film, which parodies Excalibur like Leatherface's frickin' King Arthur. Another mistake was not putting that in the film. Tom Savini and Peter Jackson were considered to direct before Jeff Burr took on the project, who had experience with sequels before, like Stepfather 2, and directed some after, like Puppet Master 4 and 5 and Pumpkinhead 2. And the writer, David Shaw, also worked on The Crow, but some sequels as well, like Critters 3 and 4, and has a story credit on Texas Chainsaw The Beginning. Hell, there were so many directors considered for this. At one point, Burr was fired, but then rehired because no one was saying yes. As for the plot, a traveling couple happen upon Leatherface and family in the back roads. It's just like Children of the Corn if Isaac wore the old shopkeeper's face. Is that enough stalling? Guess we can get to the obligatory Texas Chainsaw narration now.
On August 18, 1973, Sally Hardesty, her invalid brother Franklin.
When will these sequels learn that I've seen the first one, and you should probably stop reminding me that I should be watching that instead? Although it's interesting that this one kills off Sally in the narration, saying she died in a healthcare facility in '77. I don't know what's worse, that or what they did in the 2022 one. There's surprisingly a lot to unpack here. This says the only family member caught and convicted was W.E. Sawyer. Oh, okay, well that explains that. Except who in the hell is W.E. Sawyer? Oh, there's one in the next film, Texas Chainsaw Massacre: The Next Generation, but that doesn't take place in '81. And not only that, this says the jury deemed that Leatherface was fake and created by W.E. Sawyer. The hell? There are far more witnesses to Leatherface in this series than there is to W.E. Sawyer. Oh, we'll make Leatherface real. We'll name the movie after him, with his name written in condensed milk. They're gonna make Leatherface the star. Going back to Elm Street again, with that franchise winding down, clearly New Line wanted a new one, in that the opening of this film is basically a Leatherface version of the opening to Elm Street. And it isn't the only connection this has to a lot of horror franchises. William Butler was Michael in Friday the 13th Part 7. Kane Hodder did a lot of stunts on this and was Leatherface in the teaser. Jennifer Banco was the young Tina in Friday 7. Tom Everett had a small part in Friday the 13th, the final chapter. The great Ken Foree of Dawn of the Dead plays Benny. And R.A. Mihailoff is like a lot of slasher killers, in that that's his IMDb profile picture. But back to Ryan and Michelle listening to the late 80s, early 90s movie metal soundtrack. We couldn't get Dokken or Alice Cooper. Michelle is played by Kate Hodge of She-Wolf of London. Different She-Wolf than I'm familiar with. And here they're doing a game of I Spy. They're either gonna spot Leatherface, the Creeper from Jeepers Creepers, the mutants from The Hills Have Eyes, the Kingdom of the Spiders, the worms from Squirm, or a novelty Texas sign that they can take home and place above their bed. Well, that ain't so bad. Weirdly enough, the movie does connect to the second film. Caroline Williams has a cameo in it, where Stretch is now working as a reporter. Guess she wasn't available to update this trial and give some new evidence. Like the first one, a lot of bodies have been dug up, and also several containers of plutonium, I guess.
Creamy breakdown of body fat. You see, basically, if you're buried right, your skin turns into poison Crisco.
Oh, I see. Well then, get it to the nearest truck stop diner ASAP. I'm hungry for sausage. Not that I expect a movie called Leatherface Texas Chainsaw Massacre 3 to be subtle, but take the hint. It's your last chance to turn back. Head the other way before the roadkill scene where they have to put an armadillo out of its misery and is the very definition of scene that should have been deleted. You're not good enough to pull off this scene, movie. I'm not disturbed, I'm just bummed out. I'm still grieving Sally and her invalid brother. But whether one of these films is good or bad, there is something in them that makes them stand out a little, largely because the villains are always given carte blanche to go wildly over the top. In this film, you've got Viggo Mortensen as Tex Sawyer, then there's Tink Sawyer, and Alfredo Sawyer, who is like the hitchhiker from the first, put himself through the FaceApp handsome filter, but still looks weird.
You're in a big hurry, huh? I'm gonna service you real good, man.
He's gotta learn how to talk to people. Tex Sawyer will be the seems normal but turns out to be crazy character, and I'm gonna tell my son that this is Hidalgo. This place doesn't seem so bad. They sell props from the first Sawyer house. And I'm not sure about this Ryan guy.
Sorry, Tex. We're on a pretty tight schedule today.
Is that right?
Well, we could discuss it, I guess.
Because clearly she would rather be with the serial killer. We can trust him. He's gonna be famous one day. If he says we should get off the highway and take a strange road, we should listen to him. Normally people say, don't go down that road, and they're right. That must mean he's right too. And they're here on Redneck Family Wrestling Day.
Would you just shut up, stupid?
Ah, hell, he was pleasuring himself with the honey buns again. Ah, shit, why don't you get on out of here? He just ran out of Hostess snowballs for his ass, and they just don't have the same snowy glow when he does that. Let's take a break so they can come to the realization that everyone and everything around here wants to kill them.
McRib is all meat, lean pork that's grilled and simmered in a hickory smoke-flavored barbecue sauce, and put on a home-style roll with pickles and onions. Well, how about it?
We're back, and for a movie called Leatherface, which wanted to more so spotlight that character, it still has the structure of the other films, where it's setting up the rest of the family in the first act. It really doesn't feel like he's in this more or less than he was in the previous two. But you can tell this one is less comedic than the second. They haven't decked out the truck into a party truck with Stretch's kick-ass radio show playing. And simply throwing some roadkill on the windshield is enough to wreck the tire. But hey, we got plenty of time to stand around and argue.
Okay. Slow and easy. 'Cause I'm about to fucking lose my mind!
Ooh, this Ryan character goes full where's my egg cream. Obviously, a good Samaritan will eventually show up.
Let's hit it.
See, he's there to fix their car, just like he fixed Franklin's wheelchair. Something appears to have happened to his leg at some point. I bet it was chainsaw through the chest at the end of part 2. The first act here may not be very good, but the coolness of every single movie skyrockets the second you get to Ken Foree listening to his music. Why have we not been following him this whole time? A movie solely about Ken Foree hitting the road, getting into a car accident, and facing off against the Sawyers? Sign me up. He's got a way about him where he's only been on screen for a couple of minutes, and already he commands it, and we feel like we know this guy. Watch this scene where he fixes up Ryan.
There's a bunch of guys and they have guns too.
And chainsaws. Militant lumberjacks. I see them all the time.
He oozes competence. Hell, I want this guy around if there's a family of chainsaw-wielding cannibals nearby.
We have got to move.
No, just hold it. I can handle this. I'm prepared for this kind of thing.
I believe him. Every Chainsaw Massacre movie after this needed the Benny character. And to make matters worse, great, now they have to deal with that bastard Wile E. Coyote's traps. And another family member where we play, what limb is he gonna have missing?
My Jeep and this car, we had an accident.
Oh, thank God, Carpus from Roadhouse! He could take us to the nearest tavern payphone! Where do these extra family members come from? If they defeat one, do they just bring up a spare from the basement for the sequel? But it isn't Benny who has stumbled across cannibals. It's cannibals who have stumbled across Benny. Okay, I like this movie now. Oh, you may think you've defeated him by ramming his Jeep and sending him rolling down the hill, but that just makes Benny angry enough to sword fight with Leatherface with his freaking gun. And oh right, I forgot about this character from the opening credit sequence, who I guess we came into the movie with a Chainsaw Massacre film already in progress. I honestly just thought this was an isolated scene. I didn't know it was gonna play into things later. Once again, Benny is all of us.
Who the hell are you?
I myself barely remember. They really do want to make Benny the lead now. It's him who finds the escaped girl. It's him who is there for the exposition about what happened to her and her sister, while Michelle and Ryan are, I don't know, just chilling. Let Leatherface handle them. This makes me want to watch even more Ken Foree movies. I probably should do an episode on Death Spa at some point. Even he looks annoyed to be saving Michelle and Ryan.
I gotta go.
I'll finish my damn cigar later, I guess. Benny did not survive biker bandits in his shopping mall to be taken out by this Vietnam movie set in Texas. And does Benny have to protect everyone? Yes, he does. He leaves someone alone for 5 minutes, they start walking around and get themselves killed. Okay, this character was totally worth the setup at the beginning. And look how upset he is.
Damn.
Right? Damn, he gave her his last cigarette. The plus side of these movies is that Leatherface makes a lot of noise, so it's easier than you'd think to run away from him, provided you don't stick your foot in a trap, but you'll get off-screened, so not that gruesome. I'm guessing that was one of the many cuts to the film, even if he is semi-conscious later. As for Michelle, she's probably right to assume this house is okay. It looks like the most normal house the Sawyers have ever lived in. I don't see a single femur porch swing, but I do see characters being dumb.
Wait.
This is not the psychic girl from Children of the Corn. She isn't playing Runaway by Del Shannon at all. Don't go up there! Though I do like that the little girl wastes no time in dropping the innocent girl act and immediately attacks her. People also don't give Jennifer Banco enough praise for this. She is also clearly having a great time on screen, and the casting makes sense. If she's an evil version of Sarah from Children of the Corn here, in her previous film she was slasher movie Carrie White. Honestly, I think Viggo Mortensen is the most subtle out of all of them, which goes against my false memory that equated his performance with McConaughey's wild scenery chewing in the next. There's good K&B effects here when they let it be shown. The movie was submitted 11 times to get an R rating, but was the final movie with the MPAA's X rating before the NC-17 came into play. Producers balked at a lot of the more gruesome ideas for it, so some graphic scenes were scrapped anyway. But still, the most controversial film ever made is finally here. Lies! We all know that honor goes to Curse of the Cannibal Confederates. There's some other things that tie it into the previous as well. Grandpa is still there, albeit he's dead this time. His corpse surprisingly intact after meeting a grenade in part 2. Plus, we get to meet Mama Sawyer.
What been up? Which means you ain't carnival yet.
Benny's takeaway will be that he finally gives up cigars and cigarettes. And where the hell has Mama Sawyer been all this time? There is so much inbreeding in this family, though. It's hard to keep track of the family tree. Just reading the character wiki bios is as confusing as reading Finnegan's Wake. And she is just as upset about seeing Ryan's body as Benny was in hearing that other girl's death. Like I said, the villains do make it fun, but it does suffer some flaws that a lot of the sequels have, in that this is pretty much the climax of the first, only that one is very famous for making you feel 100% like you're in the room and it's actually happening. It wants you to feel the terror of the character. This one, I mean, it feels like a movie. A movie Carol Ann should not have been watching. It affected her more than the static. Lest you forget, it's not them that are the slasher killers. It is Benny who is gonna hunt these pieces of shit down one by one. It's the villains who shouldn't be wandering off alone. And no, being with a severed head doesn't count.
Is it soup yet?
Find out on Brad Sawyer Tries. Leatherface is getting with the times. Look, he's gotten himself a Walkman so he can listen to some tunes while he cooks. Not a fine young Cannibals fan, I take it. As much as the movie isn't thought of very fondly, I do still see people referencing things like the Saw is Family chainsaw, which makes it one of the more popular props or chainsaws in the series. If New Line had waited a handful of years, 100% Mama Sawyer would have been played by Lynn Shay. But can we get back to Benny?
This makes a very loud bang.
Benny is gonna tenderize his meat before he shoots it. Or maybe not. I think he punched him so hard, the dude drowned. That is badass.
One down.
It's unrealistic that there's more Texas Chainsaw films after this. Benny should have killed all of them. And when we come back, Leatherface will make an electronic friend. And with the Caroline Williams cameo, I should advertise my cameo page too. Visit us at cameo.com/thecinemasnob, where you can request a birthday shout out, get any other personalized message, ask a question, or more. Book yours today, and I hope to see you there. We are back, people. Don't worry, Leatherface. You'll get that diploma soon enough. Please tell me Benny is watching this.
What kind of sick shit is this?
Right? Spelling bee champion my ass. The movie really does put the family in the Saw is Family, as now the little girl gets her first kill.
3.
But she's still pretty young. Best keep it off screen. While they are still devout meat eaters, it is good that they do think a little about their health.
All we need now is a good mess of greens.
After seeing Grandpa pass away, it was right for the Sawyers to start incorporating salads into their diet, and I know a thing or two about being surrounded by evil with an appetite. We thank you for this delicious meal that you have provided us, Father. Ooh, feasting on souls! Wait, no, you asshole, what are you doing? You're making too much noise! You're gonna lure Benny in! Yeah! This movie does have moments of greatness. It's like there is a great Ken Foree starring vehicle buried in a mediocre film where he's a supporting character. If the movie really focused on that, they could have had something. I mean, hell, he is as powerful as the Sawyers. He gets hit by a truck and comes out of it fine. This may be the most realistic scene in it, in that he really did accidentally break poor Viggo's ribs, which you can see him clutch in one shot. That leads me to believe he really did light him on fire. Don't worry, it's okay. Bring McConaughey up from the basement, he can take Tex's spot. I do like the addition of the booby traps they've added to the woods. That's something I think they could have done a lot more with, especially if they played up Benny's character serving in Vietnam. I completely understand Michelle sticking around to watch Benny versus Leatherface in a pond of skulls. I would want to see the results of this as well. Yeah, it looks like he kills off Benny, but he doesn't. Same with Leatherface being crushed in the face with a rock. Both of them will return at the end. Just give it a day, they'll be back. Benny was originally supposed to die, but they brought him back because of how much test audiences loved him. Which, yeah, you should have assumed that to begin with. He'll make it past the killers randomly popping up out of nowhere again for a surprise, I'm still alive. Now what did I teach you, Michelle? Say something badass, blow the man away, and we'll be getting some good eating on the road. I do like that it's sort of the Dawn of the Dead ending. Instead of Peter and Fran saying some great movie lines and flying away, it's Betty and Michelle saying final movie lines and riding off in a truck. And you didn't have to show that Leatherface was still here, I would have assumed. That was such a last-minute reshoot, the director himself didn't know about the last shot till he saw the finished movie for the first time. So the movie wasn't the hit that New Line wanted it to be. In fact, it was a pretty big bomb, both critically and commercially. But it's still a series with huge name recognition, which means of course there would be more, just not done by New Line. Instead, that would be Texas Chainsaw Massacre: The Next Generation, written and directed by the original's co-writer Kim Henkel. Something tells me I'll have a lot of material to work with here. Thank you for watching. Be sure to subscribe to our channel today, and if Ken Foree were here, I would make him the main character.
Yakety yak, don't talk back.